Hi, my name is Roger Smith. This is True Blue Lounge. Today we have a special guest for you, Mr. Not Rich, Mr. Dr. Carey Wallace, graduate 1984, Manning's High School. Carey, how are you doing, sir?
Great, thanks. Good to see you, Roger. Good to be on the program.
Good, good, good. Hey, I'm going to start off with some, softball questions to loosen you up a little bit. So, get you nice and relaxed. So let's just go with it, yeah?
Sure, all cool.
So, Carey, what's your drink of choice?
So my default drink is Appleton rum and ting. So like a regular Appleton, and ting has a grapefruit uh, flavor, which that nice citrus flavor that makes it taste really good. So I think that's my go-to drink. If it's a more sophisticated or more aged rum, I'd probably go with on the rocks or neat. But in general, I would just probably go for a rum and ting, occasionally a beer. But I'm
Classy,
easy.
classy, classy. Hey, so what is your favorite meal?
I would probably go with an escovitch fish at this stage, with
Nice,
probably
nice.
rice and peas.
With bread? All right, some peas. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
So, Kerry, you've done a lot of things since you graduated Manning's High School. What I'd really like you to do is give us a nice little long elevator pitch of once you graduated to where you are now. And my main interest is that culture shock when you went and lived in damp Wales. I need to hear about that experience. Thank you. Go ahead.
All right, cool. So I left Manning, well, from 84, I did sixth form. So left Manning 86 and went straight to UWI, where I did a bachelor's in computer science, math, and accounts. So after those, I graduated in 89 from UWI, worked for 2 years at Grace Food Processors in Savlamar, what I call Packers back in the day. And started there as cost controller, moved up to technical manager, and then I applied to do my master's and went in '91 to do my MBA at Cornell University in Ithaca, New York. So I finished that MBA with a 2-year program. I came back in '93, and my parents at the time wanted to, even though I had older brothers and so on, that I think they were at that stage of pre-retirement where the other brothers could have come back too early in the business, but I happened to have hit the sweet spot in terms of when I returned. So they really insisted that I run the business. So I did that in '93 and expanded the business, and did well, fairly well enough for the family and so on. In fact, my other brothers joined the family business as well as we expanded. And then I went through the motion, got married, children, business did well, a decent life, and kind of got to a stage where I felt that wasn't enough. I wanted to, it's good enough doing well for yourself and your family, but I felt like there was an obligation to do more for society, for the country.
Mhm.
In fact, with the crime rate increasing in Jamaica and so on, it was something that was kind of bothering me. Like I felt compelled to use what I've been blessed with to have a greater impact than just for personal benefits. So I remember in particular it was a news item that was almost like the last straw. It was a, a story of two girls. My recollection is about 9 and 7, perhaps, that were burned to death at their homes. And what had happened was the gunmen had gone in, killed their parents, lit the house afire, and when they came out, they locked the grill and left. And the two girls, the house was ablaze. The television cameras were there after it all and were interviewing some of the neighbors. And there was this one neighbor that was heaving in just the shock of it and the grief. And he said, the girls were calling out neighbors by name to help them. And when the neighbors tried to run to the grill, the gunmen shot at them. So they had to scatter away into the bushes. But he said he heard the girls calling his name, screaming his name. And he said the last thing they said was the fire reached me now, kind of thing. And then they went quiet, and sure enough, their child bodies were found, But I swear, Roger, that night when I went to bed, I heard those girls calling my name, and I woke up that next morning saying I have to do something about it. I have to do more. So I entered politics and ran for in the 2011 elections. I ran for member of parliament for Western Westmoreland, which is a constituency that has the Westmoreland side of Negril in it and so on. And fierce race and campaign hard, and when the ballots were counted, I came in second. But what had happened to me whilst campaigning was I had a realization that Jamaica didn't have a resource problem. What the problem we have is a mindset. I went into rich communities, I went into poor communities, and very little physical difference in terms of location and so on. The fundamental difference was the mindset. And so when I lost in 2011, I took it that it was actually a win, because if I really wanted to transform Jamaica, I would need to learn how to change mindsets. So I scouted the globe to see where I could study to learn how to change mindsets. And that's what landed me in Cardiff, actually, because the professors there were the ones, was one of the better psychology schools, and professors there actually wrote a book on attitude and attitude change and so on. So I called them up and did some Zoom interviews, and so it wasn't Zoom at the time, but did some online interviews, and got accepted and went and did a PhD in social psychology with my research on attitude and attitude change. So by then they had another election. In fact, I did some consulting, applying some of the principles in the customer service, kind of the BPO sector of British Gas in the UK, and so travel all around presenting to their customer care agents in what we call psycholinguistics, which is basically the way you communicate, recognizing the emotional side of human beings. And so I did that for about 2 years, and then the job opportunity came up for the executive director of the Tourism Enhancement Fund here in Jamaica. And so I thought I saw it as an opportunity to come back, and it was a nice platform. One, you have a fairly large budget with the responsibility of enhancing tourism in Jamaica, which is Jamaica's number one industry. But it also gave you a lot of opportunities to reach out to groups and schools and audiences to share the insights of what Jamaica can be if we opened up our minds to a different way of thinking, a more collaborative way of thinking. We recognize, more importantly, why we think the way we think now, why we were brainwashed to see our brother as an enemy faster than we see our brother as a friend. We've been brainwashed to as a strong race and as an outstanding people. If we were united, we'd be unstoppable. And so the way to have colonialism, for instance, where the minority is in charge of us, is to divide us and make us fight ourselves. Therefore, our strength weaken, our strong power is weakened because it's pointed at each other, and so the minority that's weaker gets to lead and to rule. And so, to this day, we are conditioned to again divide ourselves: PNP, JLP, uptown, downtown, brown man, black man, bald rasta, gully Gaza, JC, KC. I mean, the slightest of things, for crying out loud, we we put ourselves in a box to separate ourselves from our own brothers. And so we sit on paradise, we sit on a gold mine of potential and opportunity, certainly from a tourism perspective. But yet we are too busy catching each other, fighting each other, justifying it with some silly reason of, your father was a PNP or your mother was a, it's really, really very stupid when you step back and look at it. But if we can get out of our own selves and recognize that there's no scarcity, there are enough ingredients in this country where there's no need to fight over the slices. If we bake a massive cake, everybody can have more than enough slices that they want and slices left over because of the potential.
Is your progressive view, Carey, is your progressive view in the minority, would you say?
Well, what I think is that we're benefiting from the times that we live in now, where media is no longer restricted and the traditional means controlled by the persons who benefit. Now social media has democratized things. Good ideas whose time has come of age can now be shared and go viral. So I believe whereas you could have had persons being enlightened to these things, they felt they were in the minorities and so on. And now technology and social media and so on can allow groupings to form. We can pull persons out of the woodwork and create a movement, because one thing for sure, the country, with all that's going for it, we also have a high crime rate, which is, in my mind, the country screaming, figuratively screaming for a change, for help. So I think now more than any other time that I've been alive is the best opportunity we have to effect that change and transform this nation.
No, that's powerful, very powerful. So, you know, my only thing I have to say about this, it's nice and it's refreshing to hear you speak as a Jamaican patriot. And when you speak, I don't see you with an orange shirt or a green shirt. I see you with a Jamaican shirt on. That's beautiful for me to see. Let me ask you this much, sir. What job have you not liked doing and why? And what job have you really enjoyed doing since you left school?
Well, to be honest, when I ran in politics, because of the nature of politics in Jamaica, so many persons, so many members of the electorate are still in that what I call I don't want to say desperate, but in that needy stage that to them, when they see a politician or anybody who may have some resources, who want something from them, in this case their vote, it means that they want it to translate into an immediate benefit for them, as opposed to understanding the bigger picture of a development of a nation and providing job opportunities and so on. It's more, what can you do for me, kind of thing. So it wasn't as enjoyable doing that. I think where I am at TEF, and addressing audiences and so on, high schools, conferences and so on, I believe I have a better opportunity to resonate with the audience there. Firstly, focused on tourism and its potential, the growth potential of not just global tourism, which is growing rapidly, but Jamaica's prospects for tourism, and not just Jamaica's prospects for tourism growing as it is, but the model of tourism in Jamaica adjusting as well to benefit more Jamaicans, the Airbnbs and so on. It's building out of the supply sector to supply tourism that is opening up a lot of opportunities for Jamaicans to become wealthy from and get a piece of the tourism pie. So I'm enjoying this quite a bit. Most importantly is trying to light a candle, try to inspire every Jamaican that I interact with, just have them recognize, firstly, the opportunities around them, and secondly, the potential inside of them to take advantage of these opportunities.
You're so lucky that you had that eureka moment in your life. You know, some people never get there, you know?
But hey, I mean, I personally, I just believe that if there was ever a project that we could spend a lifetime doing, it is to take an island like Jamaica with all its vibe, all its beauty, all its resources, all its people, all its cuisine, all all that we have going for us. Yet
Mhm.
on top of that, we have the challenges of the crime and the antisocial behavior and so on. And certainly, it's something that we believe we can correct in one lifetime. It's something that
Yep.
we is as it is now because of some artificial barriers and some uh, biased systems and restrictions. That once
Mhm.
we change our approach to saying we don't have to have these huge regulatory processes to make every Jamaican have to jump through hoops to make a forward step. The saying in Jamaica is if you play by the rules, you get
Mhm.
shafted. You heard that one before. In fact, the way they treat you is in the US and UK and Canada and so on, there you're innocent until proven guilty. In Jamaica, you're guilty until proven innocent. So you go with your ID or whatever. They said no, you have to go and get a JP to sign, and you go with that, and they said no, you have. It is not a facilitatory system, not a support, encouraging, liberating, uplifting system that you have here. It's a regulatory, restricting, limiting, conforming system. And I understand why. Because then the masses were us, and the minority were the ones who were in charge of this oppressive regime that if they allowed the freedom like what they had in the US. Remember, the US was a British colony as well,
Yep.
But the fundamental difference was that in the US, the majority of the population were Europeans. The slaves were the minority. They still call black people minority to this day in the US. And
Yep.
so when they got liberated, independence from Britain, they there set up rules of facilitation, of liberation. It's a pursuit of happiness, liberty for all. If you are white, they then discriminated against the black, but they were the minorities, so not a big deal. Just made the rules of to be facilitatory for their people, which were white. In Jamaica, the masses are black. So upon independence, we're not liberating the masses, giving the masses the freedom for pursuit of happiness. No, we are restricting, controlling, and so on. No wonder we are in the predicament we're in, having this blessed country, but everybody is busy catching each other, hating each other, fighting each other. Because and so that's a mindset change that I preach that's needed to recognize that no man alone can become wealthy. No man is an island. So it has to be where in the support of each other to become wealthy, you are naturally becoming wealthy yourself.
Carey, that's some serious passion, No, 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 seriously. That's some serious passion. If I was if I was on the top table, and I was looking for someone that really cares about Jamaica, I'd be looking at you. I'm just saying, that's some serious passion. Hey, Kerry,
Right.
have you got any vices?
Well, I really believe in the power of positive thinking. And so I find myself getting short quickly with persons that are automatically negative in their thinking. I believe the way you think impacts your life's outcomes, and not just from a religious or a spiritual way, but from a scientific way, meaning the brain is a it's 2% of your body's mass, but it uses 20% of your body's energy. So basically, it's an energy guzzler. And so your body devised a very smart system to keep you alive. Because if you process every single thing that came into your eyes and your ears and your senses, it would be too much for your brain would be revving the whole time and it would suck all the energy. By the time you wake up in the morning, you would collapse in exhaustion because it's just
Mhm.
too much. So what the brain does is it 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 filters out, it limits what you process to a subset of the reality that's in front of you. So for instance, if you drive on the highway, I don't know what kind of car you drive, Robert Roger.
Kia EV6 electric.
Right, what color?
Great.
What? All right, so I promise you, if you drive on the highway, I bet you notice more gray Kia. Or was it EV?
Yes, yes, yes. You are
It's a
right about
model
that.
vehicles on the road.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And
the
you
day
never
you
noticed
bought
them
it, all of a
before.
sudden, oh my God, exactly, where are all these vehicles now coming from? It's not that they weren't there before. It's just that because
Right.
that now comes into one of the things that you have in your brain's focus box, then you start noticing all of them. Or other cars are passing you now that you're not even noticing. And so similar, life is like that. There are many things in life that are passing you by, but your brain is not worrying to focus on it because it deemed that it's not important to you. How did it deem that? It's based on how you were conditioned. What you grew up as a child in your formative years, the things your parents taught you. You grew up to become an adult and you think that is how all adults live. And you think that you're doing the right thing and so on. But you never question those habits, never question those patterns to say, maybe those are not the most optimal ways of thinking. And if you then change to change the point of focus, change those habits to be more positive, what will happen is that you will start letting in more of the things that you've been missing from the same reality that you're living in every day. So the same person will take the newspaper, and a negative mind will see all the problems in the world, and a positive mind will see in the same newspaper all the opportunities in the world. So it the starting with yourself and your mindset is what translates into seeing more of the big reality. You take the subset that is more fitting with your mindset. So thinking positive works that way from a scientific standpoint. I mean, they say that everything the mind of man can conceive and believe will achieve. And you hear all these nice speeches and so on, and spiritual leaders speak about it. Thoughts are things and those kind of things. But that's the science behind it, that your brain limits what is coming in so that your brain doesn't have to work so hard all the time. If I ask you now if there are any other sounds coming into your ear, even if I'm still talking, you will probably start noticing and humming here or there or so on. Whereas before, you weren't noticing, you weren't processing it. So it's just now that I've asked you to, you started noticing it as well too. So I gave you an example with your eyes, the car. I gave an example with your ears and so on. So all your senses, is so much data coming in, so much information that your brain doesn't have the energy to process it all. So you choose which subset you want out of life,
Hey, Carey.
the good or the bad.
Hey, Carey. I knew you were deep before, but you look like you've got a little bit deeper. You know what I mean? Look like you're maybe it's that time in Wales. Maybe it's that time in Wales, but we'll come into that. Let me ask you something. Are you religious, and how does your religion or faith help in your life, if you are?
Right. So I would say I'm not religious. I was raised a Catholic, but I'm not religious. I'm very spiritual. So I do believe in a higher power, but I don't like. I look at Jesus, I look at Muhammad, I look at Buddha. I look at them as humans who have aligned themselves to the flow of that power. And so when you do have that alignment, you can perform the miracles and so on. What others think are miracles and so on. But persons turn around and worship them, even though they keep pointing to that, hey, I am just carrying out, what I do, you can do as well too. I mean, if you think about when Jesus' story, when he was on a fishing boat and he stepped out and Peter saw him and said, oh my God, you're walking on water, what can I, and he said, come too. And so if you say Jesus is God, then but Peter's a regular guy. Peter stepped out and walked on water too. So, and it's when the lightning struck and whatever, them start panicking, start sinking and whatever. And what did Jesus say to him? He said, oh, you have little faith. So
Sure. Do you
I
believe
believe,
those stories?
well,
Do
what
you
I
believe those
believe is
stories?
that I believe some of the stories that are told, but I believe that a lot of the interpretation were kind of misplaced and so on. I really believe that there is a higher power. I believe that power is not a person. I believe it's it's like the invisible, let's call it vibration that everything operates within. And I believe it operates within us as well too, you and me and so on. And we're almost, our bodies are almost like taps that we turn on, so we can open it and have it flow through us in this physical manifestation, or we can turn turn it off, pinch it off by busy focusing on wrestling in our physical brain and our activities trying to figure things out and so on. But the more we can align to that higher power, is the better the quality of life that we will live. But I believe religion has distorted quite a bit and been manipulated to to create power, to divert power into the hands of a few persons. I believe Christianity, unfortunately, I think was used a lot to help in the cause of colonialism and so on. And so I'm uh, I'm fairly resistant to the continuation of that type of doctrine in the young minds of our people. Right now, if you go to every primary school in Jamaica and you ask every kid to draw a picture of God, I promise you, they're not gonna draw somebody that looks like them. They're gonna draw a white man with a beard. So when you then have that association of purity, of sainthood, of power, of philanthropy, of kindness, of goodness, that association of those traits with physical features that look like them, not like us. And in fact, the devil and the bad features look like us, not them. Then it's a hell of a brain washing that is happening to the point where we don't value ourselves as much as we value them. And so a crime rate, a man can kill a man if he step on them to them kind of nonsense because the value is so low. So it manifests in our behaviors with each other. If a white man come and tell 10 lies, you're going to believe 9 of them. And if a black man come and tell 1 lie and 9 truths, you're going to say it's all 10 lies because of that basic indoctrination that starts from your belief system. The belief system is what guides. The belief goes into values, and then the values goes into behaviors, habits, and behaviors. So if you capture the beliefs of a people, then boy, you control them. And that's the
Yeah.
unfortunate situation we have with a lot of religion, especially in the former colonies.
Hey, let me ask you this. Um, Describe a really low point in your life and how you overcame it, and then describe a high point in your life.
Uh, you see, because of my positive outlook now, every time I look at the challenges I had in my life, I look at it as a plus. I say, okay, that actually gave me a push. That made me make a decision. That made me go that route.
Hmm.
And so,
Hmm.
for instance, losing the election, you would think one would be quite depressed, but because of I had faith that it was a gift. So
Hmm.
I recognized that the gift was because if I had won then, I would probably just be operating in that still regular Jamaican politician, trying to distribute resources as evenly as I could, kind of thing, and as opposed to investing in the most fertile, uh, ground, which is the minds of our people.
Wait. But Carey, let me ask you this much: wouldn't something like uh, a, a girlfriend leaving you be more devastating to you and be more of a low point than losing an election?
It depends on what stage of life I was at. I mean, when I was like teenager and so on, of course, those things you thought were the end of the world.
Right. You
But
guys have
as
it
you
good.
mature in your life, it was probably a gift. So
Right. Okay, no, it's a really nice outlook. So, the whole positive outlook, I can relate to it. As a black man that's lived in London and lived in the United States of America, when you talk to a lot of black people, the, the word racism comes up a lot. And for me, I use the term weighting, mathematical term, and when it comes to my life, racism is such a slight part of my makeup, of my whether I succeed or don't. I don't worry about it. If I go for a job and I don't get it, I never think it's because of my race. I always think, what can I do better? Even if it's glaring in my face, I will never say that. So that's what I'm trying to say. kind of relate to your positive thinking because I think you can be whatever you want to be.
Correct. Correct. And then on the matter of race, I mean that's the opportunity I believe Jamaica has, you see, because as a brand, as a country, as a nation, my goodness, we have a positive impact on the world. I mean, everybody, every corner of the globe you go, they know Jamaica, and they've seen the Usain Bolt, they've seen the Bob Marley, they've seen the Marcus Garvey, they've seen what we produce, and I believe the world needs a first world black nation. I mean, they have the Asian first world countries, the Japan and so on, the Singapores. They have the white first world countries. The world needs a black first world country. And of all the countries that I see on our planet, I believe Jamaica has enough resources. It's the third largest English speaking country in the Americas. It's one of the most beautiful islands on the planet. It has one of the best cuisines on the planet, the best coffee, the best ginger, the best cocoa, the best black castor oil, the best ginger.
Carey, you went down this road. You went down this road. So let me ask you this: where did we go wrong? What did we do? Lee Kuan Yew came, and he was looking for a blueprint, and he came here. What did we do wrong, Carey?
All right. Well, again, Singapore's history is slightly different from Jamaica's history. So going back to the difference between America and Jamaica upon independence, remember, both the Europeans in both Jamaica and the US were running away from a classist society in the UK or in the Europe, meaning if the monarch, the royal family on top, king, queen, duke, duchesses, then you have lords, that kind of thing, right down to the peasants. And so you had a law for different levels. A king could get tired of his wife and cut off her neck, and people will still bow down, your majesty, kind of thing. And if a peasant thief an apple, his head might get cut off. And so when they ran away from all that nonsense and ran away to the Americas, and some went to Europe, to England, US, and some came to the islands and so on. The fundamental difference was that, the majority of the population in the US were these Europeans. You know what the plaque on the Statue of Liberty says? It says, "Give me your weak, your poor, your sick, your persecuted, and I will give you liberty." I may be paraphrasing a bit, but that's pretty much what they said. All these poor Europeans running away from the challenges. So when they gained the independence, they said, hell to that stratified society. I'm going to make everybody from on their own industry can pursue happiness, liberty for all, freedom, 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 right? Whereas on the islands, what they did was they reset a stratified society here in Jamaica, but they didn't do it based on royal blood and royalties. They did it based on Caucasian features. They interbred with the slaves a lot more in the islands than they did in America. In fact, in America, it was frowned upon to have interracial relationships. But in Jamaica, it was a thing to do. And then they set up that classist society based on Caucasian features. The whiter you look, is the higher you climb, you get bush up, all of the ranks up the top. And the blacker you are, is the more you hit the fields. And so they set up the system now of containment and regulation and restriction. And then the minority ones aspire to be in the clique that can work above it. They must call them friends. Hey, Johnny, you're clearing something good, light up, they work above it. Now, fast forward 100 years, right? And what are we doing? All we've done is replace them with our own people, but our own people are there being the same gatekeepers of the classes system.
Right. Carey, when I hear you talk, I wonder, I'm thinking in my mind, is Carey left of the aisle or is he right of the aisle? And it's really hard. And that's a good thing. It's a good trait when I talk to Jamaicans in Jamaica. It's a good trait. I can't tell.
I mean, again, all I want, and I've dedicated my life to that, is to transform Jamaica to a first world nation. That's what I've dedicated my life to. So I'm confident, especially with the leverage that technology gives us, that we will be able to achieve that. One, we are the digital solutions by nature remove inefficiencies. So all these artificial barriers that we've created over the years for this restrictive system, digital technology replacing them will just cut out the nonsense. Nobody cares if you're white or black when you go on a banking app to do your transactions now. Yeah. But 10 years ago, when you had to join a line, yes, it mattered if you were white or black because the white man can walk in and get preferential treatment and the black man have to run up into the sun and waste 3 hours of the day and one bust a shot when him done because the frustration, right? So now, the more and more we get things digital, look at what Airbnb is doing, for instance. You are talking to the Jamaican host straight to the customer. No middle person to say, oh, who want it? Oh, well, you need to I don't know this guy, so I'm not going to send any of my customers there. If you're a travel agent or a tour operator, those middle people who used to be the ones maintaining the artificial barriers. Them days gone. You're talking straight to the customer. Once you provide a good job, no matter how you look, a great experience for the visitor, then you get a 5-star rating and your reviews start going up and you start making more money. That is true freedom when on your own industry and your own sacrifices and your own efforts, you can rise as far as you want to climb. And that is how we will transform Jamaica to a first world country when we align the human spirit and make the path of least resistance where you play by the rules to achieve what you want out of life. That is
Is there an administration now, Carey, that you think um, is on a similar journey to where you are at your part in life now?
Well, I think there are pockets of government that are working feverishly on it. Us in tourism have a bit of an advantage. Many of our stakeholders and clients and so on are at that developed are from developed countries and so would have that kind of uh, first world thinking. And I know that might sound a little funny, but you know what I mean. They are thinking at that level, so it's easier to conform or to be that way in tourism when you are surrounded by persons who are like minded thinkers and so on, versus in some other ministry that you may not have. I mean, you may not have that type of thinking. They're still at the bottom rung of the Maslow's hierarchy, so it's hard for them to think about self-esteem issues or nation building issues when they're busy hunting for the next plate of food kind of thing. So I mean, I'm grateful that that platform allows me to at least try and spread it as much as possible. If I can influence my small circle of influence, that circle may grow, but the persons who I influence can then influence their circles, and then that way we can reach out. And with technology, these things you never know may go viral, and before you know it, we've reached the minds. I mean, I don't expect it to happen overnight, but it's like a brick hitting down a wall. It's not one swing. It's several swings that culminate in the big change.
Okay, what happens to us when we expire? What do you think happens to us?
Well, I think so. I think God is the oneness, meaning think of it like the ocean. So there's a deep blue sea, but then you have waves on the surface, and the waves on the surface are moving and they're time bound, they're limited, and they might have a different shapes or different lengths or whatever, and then they crash back into the oneness of the ocean. So that's kind of how I think of life, that we are here all part of the oneness, but it's just from the vibration. Solids, liquid, gases are all vibrations, really, but just at different rates and so on. So our bodies are these physical vibrations, but the air in between our eyes are also vibrations. And in the end, we are really just a sea of vibration with a physical component, but it's part of the whole sea. And I think when you pass, your body deteriorates, the physical body deteriorates into dust, and the spirit goes straight into the oneness of of God or the universe, however you call it. That's my belief.
So Carey, think of how well you explained that. Now think how your great grandfather would have explained the same thing, and then go to your great grandson and think about how he would explain that over time. It's powerful when you think of it like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow. So, Carey, do you have any hobbies? And how often do you get to really indulge in doing something that Carey loves to do?
Yeah. Well, I run. I'm in a running club, so I try and get out maybe I try and get out 3 times a week, but I've been averaging about twice a week where I go on runs and I like to do like 5Ks and 10K runs.
You know, you're not gonna just say that like that and get away with it. So what are your knees like? Do you have to buy special sneakers? You have to have Ben gear and rubber pole. You can't approach 58 or 56 years old or wherever you are and
Right.
be talking about 5K. So talk to me about the regime.
Right. Well, um, to be honest, I pace myself by listening to my body, so I don't overdo it. I do it a lot for the feeling, for the good feeling, as well as the fitness aspect of it. But I don't do it for the competition, and I think that's probably one of the things that has kept me fairly, knock on wood, fairly healthy where that's concerned. Because I do have a lot of peers and colleagues who they're taking the competitive part of it very seriously and trying to beat their previous time or beat somebody else and that kind of thing. And I think, as you rightly say, at 56, you think less of competition and more of just
You
enjoying
do you do look in your early 40s, though, Carey. Let me just tell
uh,
you that much. Yeah. Yeah.
thanks.
And I'm not trying to be nice to you. I'm just letting you know. Yeah, it's probably the running.
Or just the lighting, I don't know.
Hey, did you have a high school crush, Carey?
Well, I had a few girlfriends at high school, I recall. So Daniel was my first girlfriend at Manning's. And then I dated all the most in sixth form. And then, yeah, I mean, I think I was a fairly normal kid, you know, that would have
But you didn't have a crush. You just had targets.
crush, like in terms of obsessed with thinking about every day.
Yeah.
Uh,
It could even be a teacher. Sometimes as boys would be asked to answer a question, we know the answer and we can't stand up and answer it. Could be that kind of crush.
there were a couple cute teachers, yes, but I don't remember losing control, if you know what I mean.
Name some teachers from an era. Remember, there's a lot of Manning's people, so people might even remember some of these teachers. I think Gabby mentioned, I can't remember. If you look back, Gabby had mentioned a teacher that he really liked and got to meet when he was grown.
Okay, okay, yeah.
Boy, I need to come in and help you out.
Yeah,
Oh boy, that's a funny thing. Hey, let me ask you this, here. When you think of the future, are you hopeful?
I am. I'm very hopeful. I believe that we as humans shape the future a lot. And so
Mhm.
when you think of yourself as a victim of circumstances, then yes, you may be fearful. You just think, you don't know what's coming. When you recognize that you're a creator of
Mhm.
circumstances, then I believe that you will have a lot of confidence because all you will do is choose to create the future that you do want. Now, I'm not saying the whole world will change to suit you. But what I'm saying is because your life experience is in a subset of the world, what will happen is
Mhm.
that you will create your life will walk along that path of the
Mhm.
better creation that you've created. I mean, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and so on probably is oblivious to a gunshot being fired in Rima right now,
Mhm.
right? But does it mean the Rima is not a reality? It is a reality. But does it mean Jeff Bezos' champagne that he's sipping now is not a reality? Yes, it is a reality. It's just that there are myriads of reality, and your
Mhm.
mindset will dictate which subsets of reality that you will experience along your path in your lifetime. Too
So,
many people
Terry,
are
when
prone
did
to
you
go ahead.
when did you become so philosophical life-wise? And I'm not saying you weren't always probably on the trajectory, but there must have been a real kick. And is it that same news thing that you were talking about earlier that got you to where you are? But because I'm really feeling a depth and quality in wanting to provide and be better and be positive and uplift. That's the vibe I'm getting. And that's not like That's not a vibe I get from everybody. You know what I mean? Not everyone feels that responsibility to lead.
Thank you. Well, I mean, it's hard to say. I think what has happened is as I read more and more books about self development, more books about spirituality, and so on, I was keen on getting those answers, searching for answers that resonated with me. I know religion wasn't because religion, for one of the things they say you can't question it. If you question it, you're blaspheming and so on, which to me just didn't sit right. I mean, if you're so confident in the religion that you have and the truth that it eschews, then why be afraid of being questioned? So I was searching for more answers that would make me comfortable in my understanding of this life experience. And so
Mhm,
I delved into many books and started to see the associations, between
mhm,
books that were spiritual, bordering on religious, to books that were self development, but focused on the mind, the power of the mind. And it really helped me to put the pieces of the puzzle together to make
mhm.
sense to make sense for myself.
I have three more questions for you because I know you're a busy man.
Sure.
How do you manage your mental health?
So I do yoga, I meditate, I run, I check my own thoughts, which is a big one. Most persons are thinking in automatic, but would I would even pause and question why I thought that as a knee jerk reaction.
Mhm,
And I can take a deep breath and slow thought down or notice the thought that I'm thinking, which helps me to not be lost in the physical body that my parents named Carey Wallace, or the mind that has been conditioned from birth to this day, but to be the higher self that is looking through these eyes, the higher self that's inside this body that is connected with the power of the universe. Um, with that, even if my physical self is dealing with a stressful situation,
mhm.
separating myself from it makes it just pale in it seems almost insignificant when you step back into your higher self, the immortal, the powerful.
Do you fear death?
I'm not sure it's a fear. I just desire to accomplish a goal of transforming Jamaica to a first world nation before I pass. That's the only thing I would say. I would hate to go without
Guess what? You are a politician. I have to say that. It's in your fabric. I have this is a nice deep question for you. What should you do today, Carey? Let's say tomorrow. What should you do today that the next day's Carey will be proud that you did? And don't say shower.
No, I think even having a conversation like this with you is uh is helpful. It helps me to collect my thoughts, help me to think about the deeper things, the meaning, what I want to achieve. Just that last question you asked me, if I fear death, and it has made me recognize that, listen, live live for the present kind of thing. I I'd be proud that having driven from Kingston last night down to Negril, having got up early this morning, having had the seminars, having meetings up till 9, and then being here at 10:24. I'm proud of myself for being up even this late to make sure that I have this conversation with you. That
Hey man,
helps.
the pleasure's all ours, man. I'm so grateful. I really am. Thank you very much. Hey, let me ask you this. Did Mannings shape you to be the man that you are today?
I think so. I think definitely. I think definitely it has shaped all of us, and I think I was fortunate in a few key crossroads, to be honest. One was the 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 transfer from third to fourth form. I happened to get a good grade in math in third form, and when you got into fourth form, it wasn't just your form room that was doing all the classes. Because remember, first to third, you just the teachers came and it's the same form that you're in, kind of stuff. When you got to
Right.
fourth form, especially for math,
You had to move around.
yeah, they put you in sets. So I happened to have got a good grade in math, and so end up in set one, which is like the brightest set. So all of a sudden now I'm in a classroom with all the bright boys, the Wesley Romans, the Marvin Youngs, the Henry Blights, the Carlene Doctors, and all these kids
Hey,
that I
you notice you never forget those names, do you?
yeah, yeah. So, all the guys I thought were nerds kind of thing. All of a sudden because I
Mhm.
thought I was the cool one playing, money football and all that, them time wasting things in school regularly. So now I'm in set one, right? And so they have these sessions now, like first thing in the mornings. And then after this math session is a break. So when first time now in the math in these things, and when the session finished now, and you're chatting to the guys around. You say, "All right, so what you guys up to?" I'm thinking, boy, I'm going to say, "All right, we're going to play football with a tennis ball or scrimmage in the corridors, something." They said they're going to the library. I'm like, I'm like, what's that?
I got like we're gonna I'm not smarty.
So I I say, all right, fine. I'm dragging me along. So I end up going into the library, and sure enough, I sit down and why you can't talk, so you have to just be quiet. And so, all right, might as well just do the homework that they just gave me. So go and get
Mhm.
to my bag and do the homework, and next thing you know, I've 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 started forming the habit of, God, of course, before that, doing homework right after. You mean you're not doing it five
As you
seconds?
get to.
You're not doing 5 seconds before it's due, or
Mhm.
you're now doing it right after you get it. So thankfully, because of that peer pressure, I end up creating habits of practicing and then finish doing the homework early, and then even doing some more
Mhm.
sums to make sure I get it right and all that kind of things. So much so that I end up graduating from sixth form with a top prize in math. But
Exceeding expectations.
it's just that crossroads really, that if I had stayed loafing around and so on, then I'm sure I wouldn't, and then it's my math grade that got me to computer science at UE, because it was a very sought after course that, you had to get top grades to get into that course. So,
Hey Carey, so think about this one. So being such a positive guy, since high school, what have you done that you wish you done differently?
when
Hey,
I
I didn't say it was gonna be easy, but I thought you being a doctor, guess what? It's gonna be easy for you, so let's go.
uh, I kind of feel like, I mean, when I left fifth form, UTech had this program where they had like a pre-architect at an architecture school at UA, and then you could
Mhm.
leave fifth form, do I think a year at Com College in Mobay, and then enter second year at UTech. And at fifth form, what was I, about 15 years old? I tried to convince my parents I was a big man. No one wanted to go off, and
Yeah.
and of course they put me in my place and made me go sixth form at Manning. But every once in a while, I think to myself, I still like creating, even my Airbnb that I have in the grid, I design them myself and so on. And, I just wondered if that path I would have enjoyed more, but I don't waste time on it really, because this path that I'm on is still a great path.
You know that positivity that you talk about, it really oozes out of you because even when there's challenges, you step over them like, hey, wow, like, you're not even, it's not even an issue for you. I have two stories I'd love to tell you. I don't know if you know about them. Richard, whenever my name is called to Richard, he will always remember me. There used to be a footballer that went to Stet School.
Yeah, man.
And if Richard,
I know the
there's
story.
no way, there's no way Richard would ever deny it. It's etched in our lives together. So I can't remember. We were in the old building, and I'm going to say we're in second form probably. And for some reason, I'm standing about three places away from where Richard is. And man in high school is playing steps, and Banga walks past. We call him Long Life. And for some reason, I say, Roger says to him, I'm in probably first or second form. I say, Yo, Life, what I deal with? For some reason, he steps his stride and walks up. And all of a sudden, Roger starts running like I do. That was my MO. Poor Richard had nothing to do with it. He was just standing in the wrong place. And all I remember was Banger grabbing him. But I just remember being that guy that caused that. And whenever I see Richard, I always remember, remind him of himself.
No, he told us that story about 20 times already.
Yeah. And I'll tell you a story. I talk about you a lot. The most I've ever been bitten by mosquitoes in my life was once I met you at Mariners Inn, and me and my wife were in your office. We were talking. And I don't know if Jamaica had a bad crab time or whatever. If it was mango, I don't know what it was. All I knew was, hey, I grew up having what we call fussy skin in Jamaica. The mosquitoes coming from England, the mosquitoes weren't kind to me. So, and I was in your office. I don't know how you done it, Carey, but that was something else. Hey, well, Dr. Carey Wallace, I'm really, really proud and thankful that you took the time out to come and visit and bless this platform. I really appreciate you for that. Always being accessible. Michael Wright's son wants to know when the water park in Negril is going to be open. So if you can open that for us, and once again, thank you for being here.
All right, thanks. I'll do my best.
Cool.
All
right,
Roger,
thank you, Carey.
Yeah, man.
Cool.
Great. Take care.
All right, cool.